You did shower this morning if you want.
Why, truth be known, I didn't either.
I did, I said.
Oh, you did?
Okay. All right, I'm going to start with the learning. What? Why? Oh, yeah, I was going to bring that up this morning, but you beat me to it. See? Baruch Shekivanta.
The first Masechet?
This particular Masechet and this particular Perek is one of the most common prakim that's used for beginners starting to learn Gemara. What?
Really? I definitely did not win it in fifth grade.
So the conceptual question I was going to ask you as we go through the Gemara was, why do you think this particular section was chosen as the first text to be able to start young people on Gemara? Right? I didn't have a chance to look that up yet. Okay, I didn't forget. I had a commitment last night.
Maybe it's a basic morality, a basic meter.
We'll look through the Gemara.
Okay.
It's also a little easier than some of the other ones. Why more easily understandable?
It's easier to make a outline of the Gemara. In that case, you're right. And then from that, they're able to see, begin to understand what Shaklam Tarya is. And then from there, okay, as Ruvain says, it begins to give them certain basic concepts, okay, that are found there. Okay.
Fact that it shows the ownership of property. Just because you find something on the street that is not necessarily yours, you have to sense that it might be somebody else.
That's a good moral lesson.
You
Right?
do it every single day for years. They pick with the kids. You have to be careful of somebody else's property.
You should have put this all back before you guys got here.
Well,
I like it the way it is.
Oh,
they
well,
don't.
if you do, then we could always leave it.
This is how
We
we-
might get a little smaller than this,
What do
but
you think? Should we leave
At
it?
least
We
for
have not
today.
from years ago, look, this is how we set.
that's right, that's right. When it was in,
There's 40 some guys sitting there on both sides of the table.
that's right. I remember. The old tough room. Yeah.
Learning sponsors, a year of learning, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir, Bella and David Adler in memory of her father, Eliyahu Ben Yosef Cohen. Those who were inspired by Rebbetzin Emerita, Sheila Shapiro, Sarah Estamalka, Bad Meshulam Yisachar. Gail and Leslie Kaplan in memory of their parents, Mushka Sprinzer Bad Yosef Chaim Vachava, Hanan Ben Moshe Eliezer Vachana, Pesha Bad Shmuel Yitzchak Alevi Vetzipora, Isra Ben Yoel Moshe Cohen Vachana. Rexford Friends of Gladys Sherman, Gutta Bat Meir. And Michael Klein and Friends of Judah Klein, Yehuda Tzvi Ben Chaim. Marsha Brana in memory of her husband, Harav Yerachmiel Ben Shmuel. Friends and family of Arthur Ritholtz, Mordechai Yudel Ben Baruch Leib Haim. Friends and family of Siggy Bessler, Shalom Shraga Ben Dov. Friends of Marvin Weinstein, Mordechai Ozer Ben Yisrael Aron. Sarah Alpert in memory of her husband, Harav Tzvi Lipa Ben Hillel. A Month of Learning by Mel and Haran Haller, in memory of his mother, Fega Bad Yaakov, Andrea and David Dolney, in memory of her mother on the 20th yard site, Evel Tzina Josh and Carol Sanborn, in memory of his father, Shmuel Aryeh Ben Baruch, and his mother, Chiana Bad Aryeh Leib. Sharon and Jerry Glassman, in memory of her father, Eliezer Ben Nissan Halevi. David and Hannah Grunblatt, in memory of his mother, Esther Yocheved Bat Moshe. Ira Grobird, in memory of his mother, Rosa Bat Yitzchak. Mayor and Sarah Breben, Michael and Golda Breben. In memory of Meir and Michael's father, Asher Zelig Ben Moshe, and their mother, Bela Bat Elimelech. Sid Peres, in memory of his father, Chaim Ben Aaron Cohen, and his mother, Yehudis Bat Tzvi. A Week of Learning by Michael and Judith Koretsky, in memory of his brother, Chaim Tzvi Ben Gershon, Brenda and Ed Parver, and Sandra and Marty Levine, in memory of Brenda and Sandra's parents, Chaya Hudel Bad Yaakov Leib, and Betzalel Ben Avram Yehuda, Phyllis and Jeffrey Solomon, in memory of her father, Kamendel Ben Meir. And Shemus having Aliyah, Krank, Rafil, Velti, Yeshua, Shemus Leach, Ben Israel, a good Kaben Shia. Right? It's also, our numbers have been starting to go down a little bit too. Okay. Yeah, Rami's not here either today.
He's been here, but he's traveling today.
For Purim.
A little. Oh,
But then you're coming back. Very good. Good when people go for good things. Okay. All right. We are on Kaf Aleph Amud Aleph. We're going to start a new parak. Elam Mitzias. As I said, some people learned this. Okay, previously. All right. And as we've said, the concept is that in a way it may be considered an easier piece of Gemara. Okay. But the important thing is it gives us a sense of how to start operating. I use that term with a piece of Gemara so that you see how it's structured, okay, and concepts involved and things like that. Okay, so I'm going to begin, and I think we're on. Yeah. Okay. Elu Mitzir Shelo, the Elu Chayav Chachriz. Okay. So these are the things that one finds, one could keep. Okay. And these are things that were one to find them. One would have an obligation to make an announcement. Okay. If I remember correctly, someplace the Gemara tells us that there was a large stone or rock in Yerushalayim, that the custom was that people would come on the Shlosh Regalim and they would get up and they would say, I found X. What? Right? Okay. And then as a result, okay, people who lost the item would have to come forward and make their claim. Okay. And in doing so, they would have to try to give the details. Or if we call, like we learned already, simanim, that would reflect that item belonged to them. Right? Okay. So the Mishnah continues. Elu Mitziot Shelo. These are the kinds of things that we use the old joke, finders keepers, losers weepers. Okay? All right. Elu Mitziot Shelo. Matzah perot mefuzarim. If you find produce, okay, just lying around on the ground. Okay? That's what. Ma'ot mefuzarot. Coins lying around on the ground. Okay? But we all know we should pick those up and put them in tzedakah, right? Okay. Okay. Krichot. Okay. What do we mean krichot? Again. Okay. In the section, Bereshut Harabim. Okay. These might be, yeah, but okay, it's really more sheaves of grain. Okay, bundles of grain, right, Ruben? Okay, that are found in the public domain. Okay, ve'igulei dvela. These are fig cakes, round fig cakes. Okay. Again, if you're ever interested, remember that Koren has pictures of some of these things, and they actually have a picture of a Roman fresco that has, right? Kikar.
I fix like that today. Brown.
Okay, press dates, right? Okay, kikarot shel nachtom. Okay, loaves of bread from a baker. That's actually what the fresco shows. Okay, okay, machrozot shel dagim. Here we have strings or lines of fish. Okay, Okay, v'chatichot shel basar, or pieces of meat. Okay, v'gizei tzemer halekuchim min bedinatan, or we have strips of wool, okay, that are taken from basically the or stalks of wool, okay, that are taken from their place of origin. Okay, va'anitze pishtan. Okay, and here too we could have strips or pieces of flax, right? Ulishonot shel argaman, and once again we could have strips of purple thread. Okay, hare elu shelo. All of these things the finder is able to consider his own. Divrei Rabbi Meir, according to Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Yehuda Omer says as follows: Kol sheyesh bo shinui, anything that has a major change in it. Okay, all right. In other words, what we're saying, there's an alteration from its normal status. Right? Chayav lahachriz. Okay, one has an obligation to make an announcement. Ketzad, what do we mean by that? Matzah igul ubetocho cheres. They find this circle of dates, or pressed dates, and inside is a what figs, and they have a piece of potsherd inside of it. Okay, kikar ubetocho meot, finds a loaf of bread and there's a coin in it. Okay, why is that the case? Okay, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer says, Kol kli and puria ein chayav lahachriz. Okay, and an emporia, okay, is something we're going to have to go into some discussion on. Okay, and might consider it certain.
That's new vessels that people are not familiar with.
Okay, well, that would be one explanation. Okay, another could be that it's a vessel that has no clear shape. No, in other words, there's no simanim, okay, by which you can clearly identify that kind of a vessel. Okay, but in that case, even so, it's one does not have to make an announcement. Okay, back to our Gemara. What? Okay, well, okay, what he's saying, okay, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar is I'm going to suggest right now that he is responding to the fact that our Mishnah said these are things you don't have to announce and can keep. These are things you have to announce. He's going to bring a suggestion here. And the question we're going to have to ask ourselves as we get into that kind of Gemara is that simply an interpretation, okay, a clarification of what the Mishnah is saying, or is it a machloket of what's said? Okay. All right, let's go on now. Matzah perot mefuzarim v'kama. Okay. Okay, finds a number of spread out produce, and how much? Shema Rabbi Yitzchak says kav ba'arba amot. He gives a measure of 1 kav per 4 by 4 cubits. Okay, he's saying is the amount. Okay, now if we guess for a quick moment that a cubit is about the size of 1.5 feet, okay, right? I think, right? So you say 4 by 4 cubits. Who's the math? Bob, you were the math teacher. 6 feet by 6 feet. Thank you. That's why it's good to have a math teacher or a balkore in a class, right? Okay. Okay. So what happens? So a kav is not necessarily a large amount, but that's a pretty spread out area. That's what the Gemara wants us to understand. Okay. All right. So what happens? Why is that an important measure? We're going to see. Hechidami, how is that possible? I derech nefila afilu tovanami. Okay, if these were produce that fell down off a tree, for example, right? It could be more. Okay, v'iderech hinuach. Okay, and if it was something that somebody had placed down there, okay, what's the problem? Afilu batsir mehachi nami lo. Even if it was less than that, we should say no. The person can't pick it up and claim it as their own, right? Amar Rabbi Ukva Bar Chama, he says, Nashta. Okay, we're talking about the Bay Dare Askinim. Okay, we're talking about a situation where this produce is found gathering, okay, in a place of gathering, and it's stray wheat kernels, okay, on the threshing floor is one of the examples that's suggested. Okay, that's what we're talking about. Kav ba'arba amot the nafish tarchayu. Okay, that if you have this one kav by 4 cubits there, okay, that would be, collecting all that would be a great deal of effort for a single person, right? Lo tarach inish velo hadar ate v'shakilahu. In that situation, a person might not put forward the effort, okay, and nor would somebody really necessarily come back, okay, if they did gather it, come back to collect it, okay? Afkure mafkir lehe. What would happen? Instead, the person is going to consider it hefker, ownerless, okay, and there's no advantage for them to that. But sir mehachi, and less than that, what? Tarach v'hadar ate v'shakilahu. Okay, if it's less than that area and that amount, a person would probably go to the effort of trying to collect it and gather it, come back to get it, okay, and take it away with them. V'lo mafker lahu, and they wouldn't make it ownerless. Okay, so what happens? Says the Gemara by Rabbi Yirmiyah. Okay, Rabbi Yirmiyah now is going to ask if that's the criteria that you're suggesting, one kav in 4 cubits. What happens if it's a different criteria? Let's say it's chatzi kav b'shtei amot mahu. Okay, half a kav in an area of 2 amos. Okay, so that's less grain. Okay, that's much right. So that's the situation. Okay, kav ba'arba amot tama. When we say it's a one kav, 1 by 4, all right, the reasoning is my mishum denafish terchayu. Why? Because maybe we might say it's too much work for the person to collect it. Chatzi kav b'shtei amot, but if you say it's half a kav in 2 amos, kevan de lo nafish tarchayu, because it's not excessive amount of work in the collection. Lo mafkarei lo, a person would not render it ownerless. Or dilma, or perhaps mishum de lo chashive, or perhaps because the person might not consider it a significant amount enough cave to collect. V'chatzi kav b'shtei amot, but a half a kav in 2 amos, kevan de lo chashive, since it's not such a significant amount, mafkir laho, they would render it ownerless. Right? Now let's take another example, says the Gemara. Kavayim b'shmona amot mahu. Okay, we have 2 kav in an area of 8 amos. What's the situation there? Do we say kav ba'arba amot tama when it's back to the 1 kav in a 4 cubits, mai mishum denafish tarchayu, and say that therefore it's not collected because it's too much effort? V'kol shekain kavayim b'shmona amot. All the more so, 2 kav within 8 amos. Kevan denafisha tarchayu, since it's an excessive amount of work, right? Tfei, that more. Mafker laho, that a person is going to consider it ownerless. O dilma, or perhaps do we say, mishum de lo chashive, okay, since it's not significant, ukava'ayim b'shmona amot kevan de chashive lo mafker laho, that since it's 2 kav in an area of 8 amos, Okay, since seems a significant amount, a person is not going to make it ownerless. Okay? So in other words, right now we've seen what happened. We've given alternatives, and at the same time, the Gemara is giving us two alternatives as to what might the status be. It could be this, it could be that. Okay? Let's go on. We're going to get now to a different product. Okay, before we were talking, grain. Okay, what do we need grain for? It's a life essential item. You bake bread. Okay, so, but kav shumshumin. Now we have a kav of sesame seeds. Unless you're in the halava business, okay, you're not as much interested in what? Or tahina. Right. Oil is what? What? Right. Kav shumshumin. Okay. Ba'arba amot mahu. What about sesame seeds? Do we say it has the same? And I'm going to suggest here chashivos. Okay, or is it more trouble because they're a lot smaller, right? Or is it more tircha? Again, so we've now raised. So given the example of the product, it comes back to tell us we had two options there, either the tircha or the right, or the opposite, or the chashivos. Okay, so that's the point. Okay, ba'arba amot tama ma'ishum de lo chashive. Okay, do we say that with 4 amos? Okay, the reason is that because it's not significant. V'shum shamin kevan de chashive, and sesame seeds. Okay, since they have some importance, lo mafker laho, that people aren't going to make them ownerless, right? O dilma, or perhaps mishum de nafish tarchaihu, or do we say because of the excessive amount of work that's necessary? V'kol shekain shum shamin, and all the more so sesame seeds. Kevan de nafish tarchayu, since the amount of effort is so excessive. Tfei, more mafkir lo, that people are going to make it ownerless. Okay, so we don't have an answer there. Notice. Okay, let's give another product. Kav tamre ba'arba amot. We have a kav of tamarim, of dates, right? Okay, in arba amos, in 4x4. Kav rimone ba'arba amot mahu. What about that? Okay, a kav of pomegranates. Okay, what about that situation in 4x4? What's the status there? Kav ba'arba amot. When we said 1 kav and by 4x4, okay, amot tamamai, what's the reasoning? Namely, mishum de lo chashive. We say it's not important, not significant. Kav tamre ba'arba amot. If we have a kav of dates in 4x4, or kav rimone ba'arba amot, or a kav of pomegranates in 4x4.
Easy to pick up.
Well, pomegranates, yes, and the dates supposedly, right? Nami kevan de lo chashive. Do we say since they're not significant, mafker laho, that people are going to make it ownerless? O dilma, or perhaps mishum de nafisha tarchayu, or perhaps it's such excessive effort, right? The kav tamre and the kav of date. Ba'arba amot, okay, in 4x4. The kav rimoni ba'arba amot, or a kav of pomegranates in arba amot. Kevan de lo nafish tarchayu. Since we say maybe it's not excessive work, as I say, it should be easier to pick it up. Okay, certainly the rimonim are certainly lo mafkelo. People would not necessarily make it ownerless. Mahi, teku. Okay, we don't have an answer there. Okay.
Did this answer your question? Teach a child, always get answers to the questions.
Could be. Okay, or to begin to tell them that there are options in life and you have to consider various options. Okay, and in doing so, Okay. There's the easy way and the harder way. Sometimes, there's the harder way, maybe the better way than the easier way. Okay. Stories, as we go over to the top of the next Talmud. Okay. Somebody mentioned fifth grade, they learned it, right? Okay. Fifth, sixth graders, what's the easiest thing for fifth, sixth graders to think about? Shoplifting. Believe it or not. Okay. All right. That was not uncommon. At least I remember reading that was a case. They figure, light. All right. What? I hope you on Yom Kippur yeah. Yeah. Right. But the point is, at that age, that's the point that somebody starts thinking about stuff like that. Okay. So again, all of these, everything that people have suggested are very good reasons why this Gemara becomes, again, you begin to think this for this. What's the reasoning? How do I ask the question? What happens if I come to a question and I don't get an answer? Could it be this reason? Could it be that?
Someone who's not here today says thinking Jewish.
Okay. All right. So Itmar, we go back to now to start. What was it said? So all of this comes, what would be the reason that someone would choose? Either it's too difficult, okay, or it's okay to do the effort, or it's not significant. So we've talked about that. But since we're dealing in Metzia, okay, the question now the Gemara is going to introduce, and Reb Shimon kept pointing out to us that, remember, the Gemara doesn't present it as certain items, okay, in a Western logical fashion, but immediately, I guess, I don't want to use the word drowns us, but that's almost the concept. Immerses us in something. We're being immersed in the question of found objects. Okay. Well, if it's a found object, how do you know it's lost? What does it mean being lost? That's what the Gemara is going to tell us now. Yeush. Okay. Right. Yeush shalomidas. Okay. One translation that I found, okay, was that it's conscious feeling of loss. Okay. I would have phrased it a little differently. I would have said an awareness. Okay. A mental awareness. What?
Let's look at the definition right here.
Okay. Despair of recovering. Right. Mental awareness that the item is lost. Exactly. Okay. Yeo shalomidas. Okay. So however we basically translate it. Okay. All right. We're going to see as we go through this Amud. Okay. How do we know that a person actually realizes that something has been lost? Okay. Abai Amar, says Abai, lo have yeush, okay, that in that situation you may not have, okay, this sense of loss. Rava Amar have yeush, but clearly that is the definition of sense of loss, all right, that awareness. He hasn't come to the recognition, right, Ruben? He hasn't come to the recognition, okay? Right. By the way, remember the other day we talked about the messenger bringing a get and they lost their saddlebag. And when they got, while they're traveling, and then when they got to the oasis, for example, to water the animal, that's when they turn and they realize the saddlebag is lost. Okay. All right. So that's where we come into the whole question of simanim and okay, so connecting that just to what we had previously. All right. Okay, so Abaye Amar lo havayush v'Rabba Amar havayesh. So we have a machloket between Abaye and Rava. Okay, and one of the sources I saw said this really also is connected with another argument that the two of them have about something in regards to lemafreya. Okay, can you do something and make a decision and it has impact? Okay, all right, so let's go on. B'davar sheyesh bo siman. Oh, look, here's the term we use, right? Where there's the incident has a recognizable aspect to it. Kuli alma lo plige. Everybody doesn't disagree, right? De lo havayeush. In that situation, a person is not going to give up hope, okay, finding the item because there's some recognizable sign associated with it that they would know that's mine, okay? Okay. For example, let's say you lost a set of keys, all right, and you have a certain item attached to the keys. Okay, that would be a common example that we might use today. Okay, right. All right, so what happens? Va'afal gav the shema'ine, okay, the meish, and even though we have learned, right, about this idea of recognized loss, lasof, right, lo have yush, it would not be then yush, dechi atali adeh, okay, because why? He thinks that it's going to come back to him. Be isurahu the atali adeh, okay. The lo yadad nafamine lo miyash. Okay, so we're saying, but when it's a situation of something that is forbidden, okay, is it going to come back to him? The lo yadad nafamine lo miyash. Because if he doesn't know that he's lost it, he's not going to have any sense of loss. Memar amar. So it's possible we might say as follows. A simana itle begova yahavna simana v'shakil malay. That the person might say to himself, there's a siman, there's some recognizable item on this that's inside this object or along with it, okay? And they'll give the siman and I can take it. In other words, I'll be able to get it back, okay, if somebody shows it, right? But what happens, says the Gemara, Bezuto Shalyam. What about when the tide, okay, of the ocean comes in? Okay? Ubishululito Shel Nahar. Or what about a flooding of a river? Okay? Aren't those situations where even if the object has a siman, it's very possible that it's going to be taken out to sea or flooded down the river, etc. And no way that it's going to be able to come back that you could recognize and get it back. Okay? Right? The it be siman, Rahmana Sharia. Okay? That if there's a situation where it has a symbol or sign, okay, the Rahmana, the Holy One, okay, will permit it to come back. Kidabainan lamemar lekaman, as we're going to say further on. Ki plige. Therefore, where do they really argue? B'davar she'ein bo siman. Okay, with something that has no recognizable element, okay, to for the person to acknowledge. Yes, Sam.
The Sharia is saying,
Right.
Yeah, that the Kadosh Baruch Hu allows him to get it back.
no, that was the finder to keep it, not the loser to get it back. Exactly.
Oh, that Kadosh Baruch Hu allows the finder to keep it because it's not going to get back because it's so removed from that person. Okay. All right. Abayamar lo have yeush. That's not yesh. Why? Daha lo yadad inafamine, because he wouldn't know that it came from him. Let me just make a note on that. All right. Rava Amar have yeush. That there would be yeush. The lechi yadad inafamine, Because once he realizes that he's lost the item, miya'ash, he then loses hope. All right? Meimar Amar, okay, again, it's possible we might say, or the person might say, Simana Litli Begova. I don't have any, mark that can be identified, right? Or recognized. Mehashta Hudamaish. And from that point in time, the person then loses hope that he's able to get it back. Okay? Now we have a siman here. That's a long one. Pei mem gimel shin. Mem kaf no gimel tet yud. Chaf samech ayin zayin. Okay, all the examples that the Gemara is going to continue with for the next few amudim. Tashma. Let's take the first one, which was the peirot, right? Right? Peirot mefuzarin. What about that example? Okay, various produce, and we suggested it was grain, right? It was suggested that it was grain, loose pieces of grain on the threshing floor. Okay, ha lo yadadina famine. Maybe the person didn't know that they lost it. Ha amar Rav Ukva bar Chama, but here it was Rav Ukva bar Chama who suggested what we were talking about. Hacha b'mechnashta the bizrei askinan. We were dealing with the example of loose pieces of grain on the threshing floor. The aveda midat.
Yeah.
Right. All right. Okay. Right. The aveda midati. Okay. That we could say here that it's something that it's out of his mindset for the moment. Gosh.
The owner picked up
Right.
the big pieces of grain
Right.
and he left the
But there were little things, and it sort of left his right. Okay, he had suddenly Alzheimer's, so to speak.
He means a few.
How is it? No, because gleanings on the threshing floor are going to be much more visible, okay, than in the field. All right. Tashma. Let's take the next example. Ma'ot mefuzarot. Okay, loose coins. Hare elu shalo. According to the Mishnah, it said it belonged to the finder. Amai, why is that the case? Ha lo yadal denafamine. But we say that the only way would be that he didn't realize that he lost it. Hatamnami, there too, says the Gemara, kidde Rabbi Yitzchak. We have, however, a view posited by Rabbi Yitzchak. Damar Adam asui lemashmesh b'kis'o b'chol sha'ah b'sha'ah. That it's common for a person to check their pockets, okay, on a regular basis. Okay, particularly if they're a business person, but in general, okay, right? If they carry, okay, you do touch your wallet a lot, okay. All right. Hakanami here too. Adam asui lemashmesh b'kiso b'chol sha'ah v'sha'ah. Okay. That it's okay. Particularly when you're not just involved in business, but there may be other situations. Depending on which association you live in. Okay. And your wife asks you to go take care of the laundry. You're going to reach into your pocket and say, do I have the quarters that I need to put into the machine? Okay, things like that. Okay. What? Well, it depends. Okay. Not everybody. Some places they have a card and you can use quarters. Okay. What? Or your phone as well, right? Okay. Tashma. Listen to the following, another example. Okay, so we're taking that siman, okay, that we saw before. Pei, mem, gimel, right? Igui dvela, right? And the next, right? The kikarot shel nachtom. Okay, the round fig things, and the loaves of bread, right? Hare elu shalom. Again, we said they belong to the finder. Amai, why? V'halo yadadina famine. The only reason could be is that the person didn't realize that they lost them. Hatam nami, here too again, agav dikure. Okay, maybe because these items generally are heavy, okay, miyada yada baho, that they would realize that they lost them. And maybe that's the reason we can't say that's the case. Tashma, listen to the following example. Lishanot shel argaman. What about these strips of purple? Hare elu shalo. Again, our Mishnah said they would belong to the finder. Va'amai, why? Ha lo yadadina famine. Again, notice the same answer comes up. Maybe the person didn't realize that they lost it. But, says the Gemara, hatam nami agav de chashive. Okay, we say here, what's the situation? Mishum mushe memashma baho ukadarav yitzchak. We say that since the color, okay, of argaman of purple was of significance. Okay, some wanted to say that it was connected with royalty. Okay, others want to say that because it was dyed wool, okay, that was a sign of their social status. Okay, either way, okay, because it's significant, that people would, check on it. All right, I kept thinking of, okay, if it's royalty or social status, they would show it off too. And so therefore they would, okay, kind of thing. All right? Ukeda Rabbi Yitzchak. And therefore, again, it's like Rabbi Yitzchak's statement. All right? Tashma. What about the following? Says the Braita. Hamotze me'ot b'batei knesiot b'batei midrashot. Okay, one who finds coins either in the shul, in a synagogue, or in a base midrash. Ubechol makom sheharabim mitzuyim sham, or any other place where there are a lot of people found. Okay, which reminded me that they still are fairly recently. Okay, people were in the tourists were in the area of the old city, in the ruins just outside Har Habayit, and they actually found coins there. Okay. What? Ancient coins, right. Okay. So what happens? All right, Matsuyim Sham Hare Elu Shalo. We said in that situation that the money goes to the finder. Okay, we all know that our practice is to give it to tzedakah.
What about there in case of old coins like that?
Oh, well, that goes, you give to the antiquities, right? Mipnei shehaba'alim mitya'ashin mehen. Why? Because we say that the owners of the coins probably give up hope from getting them back. V'halo yadad nafal mine. But here we say the person doesn't know that they lose it. Right? Right? Amar Rav Yitzchak, says Rav Yitzchak, comes back to his statement, right? Right? Adam asui lemashmesh bekiso b'chol sha'a. That no, even in those places, okay, where a person is commonly checks their pockets, okay, we hope that they do so to be able to pull some money out to give to tzedakah. Okay, in Eretz Yisrael, I don't know how many have ever frequently there enough to know that in a base medrash, okay, it's not uncommon, okay, to have shlichim walk through, okay? What?
Not uncommon.
Not uncommon, right? Right, one after the other, and and people normally have some coins, and they put it out right on their shulchan or right on their table. What? Right? Okay. Tashma. Right? No. They usually take one. Okay. Tashma. Listen. What is the one? Right? Mematai kol adam mutarim baleket. Okay. At what point then? So we're now moving a little different. At what point is every person or any person permitted to do leket, to gather the remains in the field? Okay. Mishiyelchu b'hanimushot. Once the nimushot have passed through. Okay, so the question we now have to clarify is what is the phrase nimushot? Va'amrinan, and we say, my nimushot. What do we mean by nimushot? Va'amar Rabbi Yochanan, in his view, Sabe da'azle atigra. Okay, those are the old people, okay, that walk on a cane. Okay, exactly. All right. Okay, so that they are the last ones. Okay. All right. Okay. That they collect. Resh Lakish is going to give a different answer. Amar likute batar likute. Those are the ones who collect after earlier collecting. Why? V'amai, asks the Gemara, why is that? In other words, why is Reish Lakish's explanation so different from that of Rabbi Yochanan? Nehi da'aniyim dahacha mi'ashe. Let us say, says the Gemara, that the poor people of this location have given up hope. Ika aniyim beduchta achrita. There could be other poor people from another location, the lo miyashe, that they haven't given up hope of being able to find some sort of leket, some sort of grain there. Amre, and we say, kevan de'ika aniyim hacha, hanach me'ikara iushe miyash. Do we therefore say that it's possible that the local poor people, okay, who would be the original ones, okay, to gather the leket, okay, that they give up hope. Va'amre aniyim dahatam, and we say that the poor people from another location, malaktele, come and collect after them. Tashma, listen to another braita. Kitziot baderech. Okay, what about the dried figs? Okay, found along the roadway. Va'afilu b'tzad sadeh, and even if they're found on the side of the field, kitziot, these dried figs. V'chein te'ena hanotel derech. And what about a fig tree where the branches fall over into the public thoroughfare? Umatzah te'enim tachtah, and you find figs lying on the ground underneath it. Muteret is permitted, mishum gezel. Okay, in other words, it's permitted and it's not forbidden, lest one think it might be an act of robbery. Right? Upaturot min hamaser, and in addition, they are exempt from tithing. Okay, so what happens? Bezeitim. What about with olives? Ubecharuvin. Or what about carob? Asur. In those cases, that's forbidden. Okay? Bishlema reisha la'abai lokasha. That's because with regards to this writer, for Abai, it's not a problem. Why? Agav de chashive. Okay, since that they are significant, memashmesh baho, that people would be quick to feel for it, look for it. Teina. Kinami miyada yadia denitra. Okay, but if we're talking about teina, okay, dates. Okay, don't people know then that it could have also fallen from the tree? Okay, or fallen from, right? Elaseifa, but the end of the Braita, the Rava Kasha, is problematic for Rava. Why? The Katani, because there it teaches Bezetim Ubecharuvim Asur, that the same thing, same principle of being able to collect it, but in regards to olives or in regards to carobs, that's forbidden. Amar Rabbi Abahu. Okay, what's his point? How does he interpret it? Says Rabbi Abahu, Shani Zayat, an olive is different. O'il v'chazoto mochiach alav. Why? Because the appearance of an olive, once it falls, okay, from the tree, it doesn't change. It still looks like an olive. Okay? The afal gav the nitrine, okay, and off even though it's a right, nitarine zete, it still appears like olives, right? Mia yadia duchta de inish, okay, and therefore one would know the place. People would be aware inishu that really olive must belong to a particular person, okay, that olive tree, that those olives on the ground still belong from that tree, and that's owned by somebody, okay? And it's right, and therefore he can't collect it for himself. Ihachi, if that's the case, afilu reshanami, then even the earlier part of the Braita should be problematic, right? Right? Amar Rav Papa, says Rav Papa, Teina im nefileta nim eset. But when you're talking about a date, okay, when it falls down off the tree and lands in the ground, okay, it's lousy. All right. Okay. Right? It starts to rot, right? Tashma, as we begin, if we'll finish up, right? Tashma, listen to the following. Haganav, shenatal mizeh, v'natal mazeh, v'chein gazlan, shenatal mizeh, v'natal mazeh, v'chein yardan. Okay, right. Yarden. Okay, shenatal mizeh, v'natal mazeh. Okay, shenatal, right? Natan lezeh, mashinatan natal, mashinatan natan. Okay, bishlema gazlan v'yarden v'chachazi lahom umiyash. Okay, so we'll pick up there on the very bottom of the Amud and then the top of Kaf Med. You too.
Any travel?
The reason I touch my wallet, I don't keep money in the for $1 above a Rebbe, but look,
Have I green?
Yeah.
I have to go to the office for a minute.
I lost my car to the shul or to the clubhouse or my driver's license or.
That would be a major one.
Yeah. It would be.
Mhm. So that's the case.
Rabbi Green, another block question.
We don't know for sure yet.